achieved.
Holy wow, Cowboy fans. So today, Dez Bryant is still fighting to be a Cowboy, and now we'll add another name to the pile as Tua Tagovailoa, Alabama quarterback, wants to be a Cowboy too. He was doing an interview and asked about, they were asking him about scheme fit, like, hey, which team do you think you could go to and would play to your strengths? But he went a whole different direction with it and basically said, well, I grew up a Cowboy fan. I'd love to be a Cowboy. And even answered follow-ups where it's, hey, but like Dak's there. Are you trying to run Dak out of town? He's like, no, I'll sit behind Dak for a year. So if Tua is willing to indulge the fantasies, I'm willing to indulge the fantasies for a video. And then we'll get to Dez here in a minute. And, of course, your questions, which leave them in the comments, and I will get to them to create more Cowboy content for you. I do want to start with Tua, and I want to start with the preface. Ready for the preface? The most likely outcome of this offseason or next is Dak Prescott gets a long-term deal, and he's the Cowboys quarterback for the next decade. Got it? Great. Now, fantasy world. How would it make sense to draft Tua? The only way it would make sense to me starts with, all right, we get to the franchise tag deadline, and we couldn't work out a deal with Dak, so he's tagged. We are so far apart on what CAA, his agency, wants and what we are prepared to give him. And Jerry Jones, who our own Brian Broaddus has told us throughout the year last year, did ask his staff multiple times, is this our guy in regards to Dak? So in this fantasy world, we have to be pretty far apart on the contract still. And we're not trading up for Tua. But what you would need is at the NFL Combine and at a pro day, if Tua has one leading up to the draft, the medicals aren't great. He has to be either behind schedule or you've got doctors that are red flagging it and being like, we don't trust it. We don't trust that he's going to be able to be the same. And then some teams just being like, well, he's been banged up before, so we don't trust it. And you need him to fall in your lap. You need him to get to 17. If Tua's on the board at 17 and your doctors give you a thumbs up, would I take him? Yeah. If I've still got Dak, but he's franchise tagged and Tua falls in my lap, yeah, I'd take him. Because he plays quarterback. And it wasn't that long ago, if you'll remember back, people weren't tanking for Joe Burrow. People were tanking for Tua. The Miami Dolphins blew up their team to tank for Tua. That was their goal. And now they might just get him at 5 because he got hurt, provided that the medicals are okay. Tua is an incredible prospect. Tua is athletic. Tua drops dimes to every level of the field. He processes what's happening quickly. Tua is an incredible prospect. If he never got hurt, I'd probably have him ahead of Joe Burrow, who just had the best season in the history of a college football quarterback. Tua is an incredible prospect. So if he were to fall in your lap at 17 and you were struggling at an impasse with Dak Prescott, yeah, I would take him. And he would get his redshirt year, and he would get to watch. And then at the end of that year, if you felt really, really good about Tua, you would go, well, guys, it wasn't the way we planned it, but we've got a quarterback for the next 4 years, and he's super cheap. So are we ready to tag and trade Dak Prescott? Now, I'm not the guy trying to trade Dak Prescott. I told you what's going to happen. He's going to get his long-term deal. But that is the scenario that could lead to Tua T being a Cowboy. Now, Dez Bryant. Dez still wants to be a Cowboy. He's always wanted to be a Cowboy. He'll always want to be a Cowboy. It was interesting that Jane Slater and Bobby Belt got him on for their podcast. He's working out right by the Star in Frisco, and they talked about how he reached out to Stephen Jones and, hey, how did it go? He didn't shut you down, did he? And it sounds like, nope. He said Stephen Jones, he didn't say no, which seems to be driving Dez. And I don't know. I just don't know. The world is a better place when Dez Bryant's catching touchdowns. The world is its ideal place when Dez Bryant is catching touchdowns for the Cowboys. So do I want to see it happen? Absolutely. But do I have severe doubts about a guy who's been out of the league for multiple years, now in his 30s, that needed every bit of athleticism he had in his prime to play the way that he played? Yeah. I worry about that. But I think Brian Broaddus is trying to talk me into this, where you put him kind of in the slot and you do a bunch of inside breaking routes and you just use him for the big body, snatch the ball guy who's maybe still got something after the catch because of his power. Am I intrigued? Yes. I have my doubts, but I'm intrigued. I also wonder what happens once he's actually on the team. Dez seems to be in the best mental space that I've ever seen. And I love it. I love it. I love it. I love the growth that it seems like he's gone through on a personal level, which can certainly translate to the rest of your life in terms of work and all that. So I'm pulling for him really hard. But if you get to camp, like he said, I'll bring guys water, be there to give receivers advice. Like, I'll be the water boy. I'm cool. I don't have to play much, just, whenever I can get on the field. Does that mean Dez Bryant's going to be a special teamer? Dez Bryant's going to be a gunner on the punt team? Because you're not going to have a lot of fourth and fifth receivers in the league that aren't on a bunch of special teams. Is Dez Bryant going to be on the kick return team blocking for Tony Pollard? I don't know. So I do think there's barriers to it, but I am certainly interested in it, and I'm pulling for Dez, and I hope they can pull it off. And the fact that Steven didn't say no means you can keep hope alive, and the fact that Jerry's there and loves to sell merchandise means that there's always that possibility because Dez sells merchandise. I'll go buy a new Dez shirt if he comes on back to the Cowboys. I think it would be great. So there you go, Tua T and Dez. How about that? Now, let me get my laptop unlocked so I can take some questions from the people because there are some good ones today. Leave your comments on the YouTube video, youtube.com/Jeff Kavanaugh. Just leave your comments about what you want to talk about tomorrow. And we got a lot of good ones. Joseph Colon, he says, great show. I watched from Puerto Rico, and Tua wants to be a Cowboy. Do you trade Dak, and with the picks you gain in a Dak deal, you move up to trade for him? With the $35 million you invest in the defense, with the money you save from Dak, let's say Byron, DJ Rager, and a safety, that's a fun plan, but no. My Tua plan is the only Tua plan. I'm not trading up for him because he sounds like a guy that's comfortable sitting to start his career, which makes me think that maybe he won't be physically ready, and you can't take that sort of risk. We're like, well, maybe he'll be ready, and maybe he'll be good right away. No, we can't take that risk. Trying to win the Super Bowl this year. Although, if you had people in the organization who looked at their team and said, hey, guys, we don't realistically think we can win a championship right now, then that would be a great team-building move. Be a great team-building move. But the Cowboys are trying to win the Super Bowl, and so they're not going to take a step back at quarterback. Rob Ruiz. Hey, Jeff, if Henry Ruggs, Alabama wide receiver, is available and your two top safeties are available, would you trade back with Philly if they were looking to move up? No! I'm not giving Philly Henry Ruggs. I'm picking Henry Ruggs. Philly can take a safety or a corner. For me, Henry Ruggs is going to be a higher-rated player than Christian Fulton, C.J. Henderson, Jeff Gladney, whatever corner it is you're looking at that's not named Okudah. Ruggs will be a higher-graded player. Just pick him. Get your division rival and give them a 4-2 running monster. And Ruggs is more than just a speed guy. He's a great prospect. No, Rob. No. JCan38. Now that Randy Gregory's reinstated, do you think Dallas might think about Ruggs if available in the first? Move up in the second for a cornerback. I'll always think about Ruggs in the first, but Randy Gregory, I would not, don't say he's reinstated. And the new CBA, if approved, they will stop suspending people apparently for just failing marijuana tests. But it's been so quiet on the Randy Gregory front, but tune in today from 2 to 7 on 105.3 The Fan. I'll ask Broadus if he's heard anything different. I just haven't heard anything about Randy Gregory. I don't know what place he's in. I know he just had another child, which is great. And I hope he's in a great mental space. But I don't know anything about the expectation of him being able to play this year if weed tests no longer suspend you. I don't know where that would be. It would be great if you could get him available. That would be a great right defensive end for Dallas. I just don't know what that would look like. Hurricane Teabag. How does Isaiah Simmons, the Clemson linebacker safety corner, compare to Derwin James? I hear a lot of similarities when their play style is discussed in terms of versatility and athleticism. Yeah, I think they're different in terms of how big they are. Isaiah Simmons is going to be, 6'3" or 6'4", and 230 pounds. I think he's everything that the modern-day linebacker is, whereas Derwin James was smaller than that and probably better in coverage. So Derwin was more of a safety prospect who could rush the passer and could do different things. And I think Isaiah Simmons is more of a linebacker prospect who can cover, will be an incredible pass rusher as a blitzer. So there's similarities in that they're really well-rounded guys that teams are going to love, but they're also a little different in terms of what I think their full-time position is. Jeremy, Jeremy Campbell, he said, please talk about the mistake or not if you think otherwise. That was to play for 8-8 and rely on the Giants to get us in the playoffs in Week 17. If we forget that game and play the backups, we go 7-9 and have the 12th pick. Problem is as you said with the note about the Giants, you had a chance to go to the postseason. So you had to go win your game. You had to go take care of business. I hate that they won it. I wish they'd have lost it because whatever spot they would have been, whether it was 12, 13, or whatever, that's like right at the line of where I really like the first-round prospects. And so now you're going to be sitting there, hopefully not, but maybe choosing between the defensive backs that I won't love any of them at 17, which is why I'm really open to a trade down. If we had to trade one of our O-linemen, this is Laz Jenks. If we had to trade one of our O-linemen to make cap space, which one, why, and for what kind of draft capital? There is no offensive lineman on this team that I would trade right now. Tyron Smith is a $12 million tackle. He's the 10th highest paid left tackle in the league, and he plays at a better level than that, so I would never want to trade that. Travis Frederick wouldn't have the proper value because he's coming off the GBS, and I think he's getting it back together, but he's also got a big contract, so you couldn't get much for him in a trade. Zach Martin's maybe the best guard in football, and Lyle Collins is incredible with a brand-new contract. So I'm not trading any of those four. I don't think any of them would make sense unless you're admitting that your team's not good enough and you're doing a rebuilding move, which I don't think this team should do. Faulkner Sealock. What do you read, Jeffrey? I'd appreciate a mini Cowboys reading club. If you'd give us reading assignments, that would be epic. I read mostly fantasy and like detective type stuff. You can see back here, Lee Child, the Jack Reacher series, although those are good. I like those. But the John Sanford, the Prey series, Lucas Davenport's the main character. I love those. But then there's another character that got introduced in those series named Virgil Flowers, which became a spinoff series. And the Virgil Flowers books are even better. And right now I'm reading the Dresden Files. I'm on like book 9. He's a wizard. Works in Chicago as like an investigator. Has to save the world all the time. I just finished. No, I have not finished. I'm almost finished with the, what are they called? The Gentleman Bastard series, which is very little magic involved in that series, but it's a fantasy series, and it's outstanding. I read all sorts of stuff. I'm having a great time, and self-help stuff. Jeff from Haley94 Ware, your thoughts on linebacker as a position we could look to draft or use free agency? Keep an eye on Leighton Vander Esch. They're going to tell us positive things until they can't anymore. And I hope the positive things turn out to be true. I worry anytime somebody has a neck injury. I worry about the long term. I worry about the short term. And so we'll see. I think right now at linebacker, I don't feel great about what they have. They have Jalen Smith, who's going to be a bad contract for the entirety of his contract. They have Leighton Vander Esch, who's a first-round pick that I'm worried will never get back to what he was because of a neck injury. And so I'm worried about it. But they have so much invested in it right now that they can't use a first-round pick on linebacker. Maybe my guy from Appalachian State, Akeem Davis-Gaither, could fall to you in like the third round, and then I'd snap him up in a heartbeat. All right, make sure you're checking 1053thefan.com every day. Make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube page and you get the notifications on. And leave in the comments what you want to talk about tomorrow. I love you guys, and I will see you on the radio.